Karri Bowen-Poole, welcome to the Move Your DNA podcast.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here to speak with you today.
Karri is the owner of Smart Playrooms and as well as their head designer and shop owner. Karri, welcome to Move Your DNA.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today and to speak to you all about calluses and everything else.
Yes. Okay. So you've designed plenty of playrooms. How often do you include hanging or gripping type
Yeah,
apparatus?
great question. I think in almost every single playroom, there's some sort of hanging apparatus. And really, what started as my focus from my educational perspective, everything was about open-ended creative movement and kind of getting kids to challenge themselves. So when we think about challenging, honestly, the hanging items are just the key. You can get anything from trapezes, monkey bars, ninja balls, and what my goal ultimately is to make sure the kids are challenged for years with the different apparatus that can go in the ceiling. So yes, always a hanging element I think is just great because when we challenge the kids, that's really what gives them confidence.
What's a ninja ball?
A ninja ball is something, if you've ever watched Ninja Warrior,
Mm-hmm.
they're these different objects. I was very fortunate to be able to design these with a manufacturer, which I was super excited about because there were a lot of not so great looking types of movement things for kids. And one of my goals has also been to make it cohesive with the rest of the home and to make it available in colors that kids love. And so I was able to design different shapes and they hang from the ceiling and they're incredibly hard because you have to literally hold your body weight just from your fingers on one hand
Mm-hmm.
or on two hands. And depending on the shape, that also makes it extra challenging. So our ninja circles are probably the hardest. The cones are a little bit easier because you have a little bit more width at the end, and that's a slightly different grip. So I just love
Mm.
all those types of ninja things. And yeah, if you haven't watched Ninja Warrior, watch that because you'll see so many different types of ninja balls or cones, as I call them, hanging from the ceilings.
Well, here's a question that just occurred to me. So when you're designing a playroom, I'm gonna assume that the kids or the family that's using it isn't maybe even strong enough to use it yet. So how do you scale ability?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it just occurred to me right now to ask that.
no, that's a great question. And that's really what we try to do. Our goal is ultimately to challenge kids, but to make them successful. So
Mhm.
that's a very fine line. And everything we do is custom to the family and the kids' ages. So if you give me a 2 and a 4-year-old, let's say, that 4-year-old's done monkey bars before, but is really into active movement or needs that type of sensory input, then for sure we would have cones or rings or balls kind of on the side of it alongside the monkey bars, and also always an ability you can take down the more challenging things if they're not ready and also put them back up. So we kind of set up the environment with things that can go up and down. The monkey bars obviously will be installed all the time. They're permanently installed, but that's our goal. And ultimately, again, that the kids can eventually do it, that they want to do it, and that they also can use it in many different ways. So if they want to go backwards on it, or all of a sudden have their feet go on the monkey bars and instead shimmy across that way, we make sure that the environment is such that they can think of ways to challenge themselves as well. And that's really the key to having them coming back and continue to work out as we want them to in the space.
Well, I mean, that's the best thing about a playground is there's clearly the way that it was designed to be moved
Mhm.
through, but then there's all the ways, you play a game of hot lava, and then all of a sudden you're on the outside of the structure, and it has to be able to take and that's what you want is creative movement, which it's interesting because for me, I'm thinking of always wanting to have, hanging for grip strength and, very health anatomical related reasons, brachiation, shoulder formation, breathing, respiration, all these things, but I hear that there's also this element for the brain, mental, element of success, risk taking, as well as play, you know, to that creativity shows up as well.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that kids have an innate sense of wanting to be challenged, and that starts from when they're very young. Think about they wanna crawl. Think about how the baby learns to crawl. It's always different. They'll do incredibly creative things on their bottoms, on their stomachs, but ultimately they get there. Then they wanna walk, then they wanna skip maybe, then they wanna run, and so there's an innate sense of that, so we can provide kind of that environment to do things that they wouldn't do down their street. It's not bike riding, it's a totally different set of exercises, and for me, the swinging movement within children's brains is also really the focus of my spaces because I really believe that resets their entire system. It rebalances them. And for some kids, it honestly gives them exactly what they need to all of a sudden sit down and do their homework. So all kids, if you push a little baby in a swing and they're crying, most likely they'll stop. You know, they're used to movement sort of in the womb. And so if I can create that as older kids when they're starting to sit all day, and again, try to challenge them innately. They're going to be interested, like you said. Monkey bars have been the number one thing for kids on the playgrounds, and that's partly why I put them inside because they were
Mhm.
all coming down outside, and this was even before COVID. And I thought, "Wait a minute, this is what they're innately interested in because they're so hard." And actually, as the kids get bigger, they become more challenging because the kids weigh more. So that's why as an adult, it's much harder for us than if we were 5 years old. So that's a beautiful thing about monkey bars and some of the other hanging is that the weight actually makes it more challenging or the height as they get bigger. So, yeah, so that's really my focus as well for those hanging elements.
Well, we've always had them in our house ever since our kids were little, and I would say they are equally for the children as they are for my primate body. Still needs that movement, also keeps me from crying. It keeps me from sitting, you know, I'm when you're talking like me, and I'm almost 50, and I need that dose of hanging and playful hanging, and I'll talk about my own setup in a second, but do you ever, design for adults? Do you ever have I mean, certainly parents maybe are like, "Me too," but also maybe exclusively adults? Anyone who said, "I would like a smart playroom?"
I've never done exclusively for adults. I think families have taken me into their adult gyms. And for me, it's not quite, it doesn't give me that real sense of my purpose. So I've gone into gyms, sometimes they have treadmills and then they have other equipment. I have to work around that. And it's just not my passion, to be honest, like the adult spaces, because it tends to not go back to sort of the cognitive child development kind of sensory input. For some of us adults, yes. Um, but I found to really be a incredible designer of adult gyms. I think there's a need out there, but you have to learn totally different mats. I need to know all the equipment. You kind of have to be able to source everything. And so people started to ask, I thought, yeah, we could do a little punching bag here or couple monkey bars here, but to really do the whole gym again with a lot of different equipment that I'm not used to. And I don't really want to be the expert on treadmills. So it's just not so I just haven't done it, but sure, if there's something nearby and I can bring in some of my elements, great. When I do the playrooms anyway, the goal is that these kids are older, and I do have adults say, "I'm down there using exactly what was in there, that type of hanging equipment," as they get older, especially when we do more teenage sort of focus and we use regular punching bags and things, and again, the idea is things come up and things go down. I know with my own kids, it's like the punching bag was huge 5 years ago. Now, not so much, which is okay. So we switched things out. The climbing rope was great. It is just with our lower ceilings, it's just not challenging anymore. So I've learned to then we put in like a yoga hammock. And what you were saying about learning, I love when setting up the environment so the kids can do whatever they want. But then also now with the internet, if you go to YouTube or and just Google yoga hammock, what to do. I think it's an incredible way for some kids to see all the different variations if they need a little more prompting or they have something specific that you want to work on with them, or you just want them to do more yoga or more stretching, whatever it is. So those two things are, I think, so nice for kids that they're really able to have both. And again, that keeps them kind of wanting to come back, because some kids might do better watching it on YouTube and then wanting to master that skill. Other
Uh-huh.
kids are going to be like, I don't want to do that. I just going to do whatever I want. So that's also really nice. But the ultimate goal is the same thing, that they're, like you said, tapping into different types of sensory input, different types of movements. It's natural for them, and it's just happening in their home. So it's just like part of their day to day living, which I think is so amazing, because kids now are often overscheduled and they're not just running around the parks like they used to.
Mhm. Well, I am a firm believer in, and I think it was actually you who told me this last year about installing, doing the work to install a hook that could swap out different things hanging from it rather than installing, something maybe like a climbing wall, which is fine sometimes, but it's not as transitional,
Yes.
depending on the age of your kids, and that really helped as I have older kids and now everyone's taller than me, we're all sort of adult height and size, and being able to switch from monkey bars from when the kids were younger, and then we had some rock holds, and then now I just put in rings, just 3 rings that I would say aren't, you were talking about designing for adults and this idea of designing a gym, where for me, what I really like are a few key pieces that fold into the fabric of the room. Like, I don't have a whole room to dedicate to a playroom or a gym, but I have areas of my living room, the transitional space between the kitchen and the living room, and had a really great beam there, and we put in just 3 rings. And you go like, "What are rings for?" It's like, well, you could do pull-ups and you could do all the ring exercises if all the calisthenics if you Google that. But what I have found everyone has started to do is have their feet on the ground and their arms in these rings, and sort of arch and swoop their body around in these fun ways. And I go for 80 to 100 full body swings. And then now I've started to sort of hold one, and we hung them from hooks that also rotate.
Mm. Yep.
They don't just have not just one. I don't know that you probably know the technical term
Yeah, I
for it.
can't think of what it's called, but right. So, like, rotational device that you can put on the hook so it can spin, right?
Yeah,
And you
that's
can
how
just get it
yeah.
on Amazon. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so this idea of being able to actually brachiate, like the big rings on Santa Monica Beach were our
Right.
ideal, but we just had to create a small little set, and so we just have the little wooden rings, from CrossFit or anything else like that hanging from canvas straps, so they rotate, and my feet are often on the ground, but I feel like I'm doing these big dance moves, and everyone like, teenagers come over and they're inverted, they're just hanging it. No one is doing a fitness ring exercise. We don't really have a gym exercise approach to it. It's more like
Part of the everyday almost.
yes,
Uh,
and we're having
It's like a
conversations, we're
chair.
talking ab
It's like a
it
chair.
is,
Like, should I have a chair here? I'll put my
exactly.
rings just part of the furniture.
Yeah, it's part of the furniture, and they're never underused.
God, that's amazing. I
There's
mean,
someone in all between the 4 of us, and, you get up from a computer break and you're on it, and I think actually because it is smack in the middle of our living space, and again, I'm not talking about a whole setup. I'm
right.
talking about, the board that we created, and we had a contractor friend mount it is I'm gesturing with my arm, maybe 3 feet long
Mhm.
and a foot wide. We just needed that reinforcement to bolt everything in so it would hold everybody's weight well and be really safe, and it has become magic. It's magic. I've never been stronger in my upper body, maybe when I had young kids, and it's just within the flow of paying bills and doing schedules and talking about homework and, the kids chatting about their day, my husband and I chatting about whatever's stressing us out. We're just sort of in this playful zone. So I really think what you do is important. So thank you for doing that. And then I had another question, like, do you have a center the hang do you hang? Do you have something set up for you?
I have something set up for me. I did my smart playroom. I have a single detached garage, and it was, when I purchased this house about 10 years ago, it was really just completely falling down. There were a couple elements that were so charming. I was like, "Ooh, I think this is gonna be a good project for me." It's a very small house, so I had to be very mindful about the
Mhm.
spaces. I decided with the single detached garage, it literally was leaning on its side, falling down. It was so bad. I actually didn't do anything in there for 2 years. I obviously couldn't put a car in there, and then all of a sudden, I was and luckily, it was like a year before COVID, just coincidentally, and I thought, "You know what? I'm gonna make this kind of into the family gym." Obviously, I've been designing these spaces, but like you, my kids were a little bit older, and also I don't have a basement. I don't have any dedicated gym space or playroom space. So I thought, "You know what? I think I'll do that there." But I'll make sure that I could drive a car in there if I need to, which was interesting. So I did put like a mat I redid it, but I kept the shelf, so we re-supported that, so I have monkey bars going down the center, but again, I could even leave the monkey bars, take out the mat, and pull my car in, which I think is amazing, and then I did a little bit in the top part, there is a little climbing part, and that does go up 12 feet, which was nice, and then I have a bunch of, like, our hanging ninja things, a trapeze, I also have a punching bag out there. I'm personally super into yoga, and so I spend most of my time doing stretches, but whether it's even just hanging um, or just using the yoga hammock or just doing yoga and that type of movement, that's really my what makes me just get going. Like you were saying, I do a 3 mile walk every single day, early morning, watch the sun rise. And then I like to at least do some sort of, specific exercise for me, whether it's in the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, go to a class or something like that. But in between there, yes, I'll even just hang on the like the doorways a little bit if I felt like my
Mhm.
posture, especially after staying in front of the computer a little bit, I just so I'm a firm believer in it. I'm probably could use a little more work hanging and strengthening, to be honest, because I do more stretching. But yeah, I found it super beneficial. My kids still go in there. My 16-year-old was in there today. I don't know what she was doing, but she was doing some sort of exercise. And so it's really nice to have a dedicated space that also the kids can play music, kind of do their own thing out there, because our downstairs is really just one room, so if you do want something separate, it's worked out great. So I do have some hanging equipment. It's been very flexible. I'm still so happy the monkey bars are there. And honestly, we tie the TRXs to the monkey bars too. What's
Mhm.
interesting about monkey bars is I always say to people, again, you don't need that many, right? You could put 3, but you can tie things onto there. You can tie the rings on. You could take and we do sell rings on our website, by the way, and I had that manufacturer make them in beautiful colors, and we actually now make different slings. They're in gray. I try to get things again, they're a little more soothing to different environments. I could only find black and red on Amazon, so I was like, "Let's make a soft gray that's different." And so you can just take that without putting a hook in. You can
Mhm.
loop it around a monkey bar and have all those hanging things there, which is amazing. So, like you said, it just comes, you know, be creative, be thoughtful. You can take things up and down. Again, I think it goes back to just being really mindful about your home, your purpose. And it is amazing, like you said, when you put things front and center for kids of any ages, they use it. So we're lucky that we know the benefits of all this. I had a great furry swing in my living room, and when I got another couch, it kinda cut that off, but for years, same thing, it would just be kinda sitting there, moving back and forth. Adults would sit on it, and, it was super, super popular and comfortable, and like you said, it's part of my furniture, and I just loved having the swinging movement right in my living room for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any good callus stories? Anyone report back on grip strength or calluses?
No, I mean, what's interesting is I haven't had anyone complain about calluses. I had people say that I don't like these monkey bars. They hurt my kids' hands. And there was a lot of this is too hard. It hurts. Do you have any recommendations? And it's so interesting. So we'd search like gloves and different things that they could use for their calluses. And go to Amazon and stuff, but it was interesting as I was preparing for this and really reading about calluses and how incredible they are for kids, and I think that's just so good for parents to know that calluses I always said they're gonna get calluses and it'll be fine. I don't recommend the powders that they had. It's almost like, I guess it's just like a powder, almost like a gymnastic
Like a
powder.
gymnast.
Like a
Mhm.
gymnast powder, yes, or gloves, and I always said, "Just let them go, it will get better," and I never did hear from people after a while, but I think for parents to understand that that is what you want, and it's made me realize it means they're working their hands, their hand strength. They use it for handwriting, they use it for backpacks, they use it for any kind of sport they're doing. If you think about it, our hands are probably, besides our feet, probably the most important things we have, and when they're incredibly strong, it is unbelievable how it taps into things that you wouldn't even think about that your kids would be, really amazing at, and I have had people come back and say, "Oh my gosh, my child at age 5 in gym class." I just had someone actually in Queens in New York who just came back to me and she said, "Karri," she's like, "Everyone thinks my child is gifted as far as her fine motor and soccer skills." And she's like, "We didn't have a soccer goal. It wasn't that. It was that they were strengthening everything, core,
Mhm.
arms, shoulders, hand-eye, everything at once." That's also I really try to tap into the whole body, and she said her child at age 5 stood out in camp and everything, and she got all these comments, and she was like, "I swear it's my smart playroom that I created because this was a son, and this boy just loved to be down there," and again, it wasn't specific soccer skills, and I think that's so important as well, is that you wanna strengthen these things. Calluses are proof that they are working hard, and it'll benefit in whatever it is that they decide to do, and even if it's just for their brain, doesn't have to be sports related per se.
No, I mean, you're basically just it's the same thing of reading with your kids at home. You're moving
Yes,
with your kids at home. You're trying
yes,
to not rely only on what they're getting in the educational environment, the school PE or organized learning. It's just sort of built into the culture of a home, and then you end up, yeah, with more greater movement fluency
yes.
overall. And yeah, the point of this episode is that skin takes time to adapt. It adapts just like other muscles and other tissues in the body do, and a callus is an indication that that adaptation is happening. And so if you do, you will get sore a little bit at first, whether you're a kid or an adult starting to exercise, things are heavy against our skin, and our skin, if it's baby skin, even if we're older, if it has not been loaded before, you have to wait for it to adapt and get stronger, and it's gonna be a little uncomfortable along the way.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think when parents are informed, then they can embrace putting 2 rings in their living room and everything. They
Mhm.
understand it, but I think some parents just don't understand the overall benefits of all of this type of movement,
Sure.
as you know, and everything.
And it's a little weird looking, but if if they you know, but I've no one has ever said after, like, "What are those?" had they not hopped on them and tried
Right.
something, and that, I think, speaks volumes. I think it's the cultural shock of seeing this perhaps in a house in the front and center, and then they're just integrated into movement like everyone else is.
Yeah, which is great. Right, and again, it's thinking mostly exactly that not our home is like a showpiece. It's like, again, what are we functioning and what are our priorities here? And it's great to rethink just the standard table and chair. So I think it's great.
This is our primate habitat. It's
Oh,
a
and you
primate
have to
habitat, you
see
know?
it is, Jessie Graff, who is a ninja warrior, she had bought some white monkey bars from us. Have you ever watched her? It is
No. She
un
amazing?
okay, you have to go to her Instagram. She she'll make meals just hanging from these monkey bars, no feet attached, nothing. She'll go into the refrigerator. You have to just watch it. Everyone out there
Okay.
watch Jessie Graff because it is unbelievable. Her whole house is built and designed so she never touches the floor, not up the stairs, not on any surface in any room. It is and her videos show that. It's just all in her home. She doesn't care about the looks of it. She's just in the functionality and the strength of it. And it is really amazing to see what one can do, and cooking and cleaning and everything without feet on the ground and literally hanging sometimes with one bar. Yeah, it's
Well,
great.
she's set up so she can, yeah, basically, locomote through her house in a way that also serves her training. I'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, it'd be fun.
Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for supporting the Move Your DNA podcast. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.